Hello everyone and welcome to the very pilot edition of the Bookish Clan. My name is Emmanuel Ebo and I have one and only Sonia, Texas, everything. I don't know what to call her this way. Sonia, how are you doing?
I'm fine, I'm alright. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just like the size of your earrings, by the way.
I can't tell if actually Emmanuel is giving me a compliment. Like viewers, help me out. If he's giving me a compliment or if he's trying to shade me.
Just move your wig a bit, so they'll see the size of the EC. Just Negodi.
Negodi is beauty.
It's giving.
Thank you.
Anyway. Yes, today, like I said, it's our pilot edition of the Bookish Clan, TBC. And we're starting with a very important book. It's called Purple Hibiscus. I mean, if you're a Nigerian by now, you probably know that book. If you don't know it, where have you been? Are you under the rock? Because every Eke Market day, that book trends on Twitter. People are asking questions. Purple Hibiscus, this one. People are comparing with other books. I mean, what's the favorite book? This one or that. So it's a well-known book here in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. And I am super excited, elated to discuss this book with Sonia today. Well, I'm sure you all know the author, Jodelo Wawan Abba. I don't know.
You really love saying that.
That's our title now.
I know it's her title, but you just love it when it comes out.
Well, Odelowa means like one that writes for the world. So in case you're not Igbo and you don't understand what Odelowa is. So Chimamanda is Odelowa. That's her chieftaincy title from her hometown, Aba, in Anambra State. So Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is the author of Purple Hibiscus, the book we are discussing today. And before we go on, Sonia will give us a quick rundown of who CNA is.
You just like making acronyms.
Do I?
Yes.
I've not noticed that too.
TBC. I didn't know that. Okay. I didn't know listeners were having
the Bookish Clan,
an acronym,
TBC.
but apparently we are.
Well, you cannot blame me.
Okay, all right. I think that one is catchy. The TBC.
Actually,
yeah, it's
TBC.
very catchy. Okay, so CNA Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She was born on 15th September 1977. She's a distinguished Nigerian author, celebrated for her numerous contributions to literature, encompassing novels, short stories, and non-fiction. The Times Literary Supplement hailed her as a foremost figure among a group of highly acclaimed young Anglophone Nigerian authors with a growing readership, particularly in the United States, where she considers as her second home. Adichie's literary repertory boasts noteworthy works such as Purple Hibiscus, the book we're going to be discussing today, which was written in 2003, Half of a Yellow Sun, which definitely is also very popular. Many of our books are like really popular.
Yeah,
I think there's a movie adaptation of Half of a Yellow Sun.
There is.
So that was written in 2006. We have Americana written in 2013. Beyond novels, she has penned impactful short stories, book-length essays like We Should All Be Feminist.
Yeah.
There's even, I think, a talk. I think that was more of like a recording than it was penned down into a book, because I actually heard it first.
We Should Be Feminist?
Yes,
no, it was a TED Talk as well.
Yeah, it was a TED Talk as well.
More like a TEDx talk. You know, there's TED and there's TEDx.
Because I actually heard that version before I even read the book, and it was exactly kind of the
and
same.
of course, our popular TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story.
Exactly.
I mean, if you've not listened to that, you're missing out.
So she also wrote Dear Ijewale, or a Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions, in 2017, and a poignant memoir titled Notes on Grief, recently written in 2021. Her literary prowess garnered her the prestigious MacArthur Genius Grant in 2008, and in 2018 she received the Pen Painter Prize from English Pen. Adichie's influence extends to being recognized as one of BBC's 100 Women in 2021. In 2002, her short story, You in America, earned her a spot on the Kane Prize for African Writing shortlist, while her story, That Harmattan Morning, clinched her a joint victory in the 2002 BBC World Service Short Story Awards. Notably, she secured the David T. Wong International Short Story Prize 2002-2003, Penn Center Award in 2003. So yeah, that is that about the amazing Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who has written us a book we'll never forget, Purple Hibiscus. So
when you were reading out the awards, I'm like, only one person. This one.
I feel so proud because, fellow Nigerian. It's like, hey, our Nigerian literary
And by the way, she shares the same birth month with you.
Exactly. So the pride is increasing. It's just literally few days apart. Like I'm like, I need to tap into my literary genius.
You need to bring down your shoulder pads more, please.
Please. I'll raise it high.
Anyway, moving on, we're gonna give you a quick summary of Purple Hibiscus before we actually delve into the analysis and discuss the themes and all that. So let's take this quick summary of Purple Hibiscus. Yeah. Purple Hibiscus is a historical fiction novel set in Nigeria during the late 1990s when the country was under a military dictatorship. The novel follows the life of Kambili, a 15-year-old girl who lives in a wealthy and devout Catholic family. Her father, Eugene, is a successful businessman and a respected philanthropist. But he's also a violent and abusive tyrant at home. He controls every aspect of Kambili and her brother Jaja's lives and punishes them severely for any perceived disobedience or imperfection. He also rejects his own father, Papa Nnukwu, who practices the traditional Igbo religion and forbids his children from having any contact with him. So Kambili's life changes when she and Jaja visit their aunt, a former university lecturer and a widow, who lives in a poor but lively household with her 3 children. So there, Kambili and Jaja experience a different kind of family, one that is full of laughter, love, and freedom. They also meet Father Madi, a young and charismatic priest, who also becomes Kambili's first love interest, what we call crush. Well, Kambili and Jaja learn to question their father's authority and their own identity and to appreciate their grandfather's faith. The novel explores the themes of religion, extremism, patriarchy, violence, and all the rest. And that's why we're here today, to help you go through those themes and, of course, analyze them as much as we can from our own very perspectives. Okay, yeah, so that's the quick summary. I mean, Sonia, when I first read that book, it gave me, I don't want to say trauma, but I felt really bad for Kambili and Jaja. And I had this kind of resentment for Papa. Eugene, I don't know, Eugene Achike, who is the papa. I don't know, what was it like your first experience, your first judgment of the characters and the book itself?
The characters, I really loved how Chimamanda wrote out the characters. They were very layered. They felt so real. Like reading them made you feel like they were like right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh, my neighbor's Papa Eugene and his children, Jaja and Kambili, like people you might know. It felt so real. And I think that's what I really loved about the characters. They felt so real to me. So because it felt real, their trauma, the things they were going through also felt real to me.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was happening so closely. And I remember that I cried.
You cried.
It was a moment of who cut onions. I don't know if you was, that thing of that trend going on Twitter. Who cut onions? Honestly, when I was done reading, I posted on my WhatsApp like, who cut onions? Because I was just last page there were tears running down. I was just like, oh my god. I feel like it's not really a good enough pointer, but it is kind of a good pointer if a book makes me cry. I'm like,
yeah.
The writer knew what she was
I'm
doing.
telling
what
you,
he was doing.
the imagery was perfect.
It was so good.
I love how descriptive she was with words. And maybe because we're Nigerians, we kind of, let's say, pander towards that experience. Many people also have the same or similar experience.
Yes, definitely.
Of street parents, parents or a father who is very strict and high-handed and tries to control every aspect of their children's life. Maybe that's why we can relate so much. I don't know for others, but
I even think even without you having such experiences, the way it is written, even if it's for you, if you don't say the words, "Oh, I can relate," you probably say, "I feel so empathetic towards them." You can feel their pain, feel what happened just by reading it. I'm telling you, I was crying. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I was just crying and crying, and I'm like, "Come on, it's just a book."
and knowing that it was written from Kambili's point of view,
yes.
So every time we are reading and seeing, or imagining if it's from how Kambili,
a 15-year-old
who is actually going through this traumatic experience. So that brings us to the characters in that book. The major and of course the minor characters. Let's go through some of them. Starting with, of course, the protagonist here, Kambili. Kambili. I think Kambili means let's live or let me live, something like that. And I'm thinking about it now. Let me is most as if her name says a lot.
Intentionally by Chimamanda.
Kambili.
Yeah.
Let this man allow her to live life.
Because to be fair, it felt like she had never really lived. Like she kept on living through through her parents. She never
not just her parents, her father.
Yes, her
Because what's
father.
very specific? Because
Well,
the
I
mother
thought
was.
even her mother's silence sort of influenced her living. You know, like, because Camille was sort of like a replica of her mom, if you could actually tell.
Well,
There were many things that you could see in Camille, you could see in her mother.
right?
Yeah, so I felt like, directly or indirectly, even though her mother wasn't saying anything, the silence influenced her.
I think her mother was just like the perfect example of that generation of women who believed
Always
in
so quiet.
quiet, in silence, just
Total
to
submission.
protect the
Yes.
husband's name, the family dignity, and everything. They don't. It doesn't matter if you are dying, if anybody's dying in the family, just keep quiet and be the sheep to that man who is the lord and finisher of their lives in that family. So yeah, I don't even build to Mama's character. You know that I don't know. Like I said, she's just the perfect picture of women from that generation. I would like to say baby boomers, you know, people that were born in 1950s or
This was post. This was already post independence. The
Yeah.
book. It was written in the times of military coup, military
Yeah.
takeovers. So probably around the 1970s. I think that's when the book sort of was the time
no,
era.
it was dated around the 1990s even.
Okay,
Yeah.
even much later.
Yeah.
That was before we went back to democratic
Yeah.
rule. So yeah, I feel like it was a lot like a huge representation of the women in that era. She was very fearful. Easily, her husband was just
The
her
center of her life. Nothing matters except keeping this family.
Him and the children. There was a lot of joy to her when she was able to see her children be successful.
Yeah.
So her children's success was what determined if she was going to be happy or not.
Yeah.
Like there were scenes in the book where we saw them coming home and then there were their report cards and Mama was just waiting outside to see what they were going to have. First position, second position, and when it was good she would break into Igbo songs and it was like that's one thing I really loved about the writing. You could just picture, you could just really visualize it. If you're looking for a book that without watching a film, forget the power outage. Power outage has
you know,
nothing
I
on
have
that
to
book.
say it that sometimes I prefer books to movies. Because movies don't do justice to the story. Sometimes
Especially
just
when
cut-
it is
cut
well
and join.
written,
Yeah,
well
of course,
written,
of
and it
course,
was
of
well
course.
written. So that's
course.
pretty much how Mama was. She was just a very quiet woman, just went to just do her duty as a mom. Everything about her was her life was just all about the household, all
And her
about the
husband,
household,
and how to
the
make
household,
sure that-
pleasing everybody in the household. Were Jaja and Kambili doing okay? Was the husband doing okay? Everybody should ensure that the father was like a king in the house. He
Was like,
every,
he was the
he
king.
was everything at the end of the day of her life summed up to the fact that her husband must be pleased.
Yeah.
So every movement, every decision she was making or was going to make, it was all about was her husband, that was Eugene, was he going to be happy? Was he going to be sad? What are we going to do to make him happy? Well, everything was just, there was no thought, I feel like she had no thought process
Of
that
her
did
own,
not
just
include
the
Eugene.
husband, yeah. And that be to that Eugene of a man who is like the antagonist.
Man.
He's like the antagonist of this story. I felt so much hate. I can't imagine myself hating someone that's not real. You know,
Yeah.
a fictional character hating somebody like that. I just hated. Okay, maybe hate is a strong word. Yes, I hated the man. Please, let's not lie to ourselves here.
Yes.
I hated the man. I hated the character. He was so authoritarian, and he held himself so high as someone who is perfect, who is to be looked up to. His character was more like don't know if you've seen Things Fall Apart or if you've read that novel Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. That's
Who
Okonkwo's
actually
character.
happens to be Chimamanda's very big idol in
Actually.
the writing space. Yes, but aside or like what you said about Papa Eugene, they call him Papa to brother
Yeah,
Eugene,
Eugene
depending
is
on
his name.
who is referring
Eugene
to him.
Achike. The family is just
Yes,
the Achike family.
Achike family.
Yeah.
So I felt like Eugene he was so layered as a character,
Yeah.
very very layered. There were so many parts to him. I feel like we didn't have enough insight into what happened that led him up to that point, like why his character became that way.
Well,
We had some
Yeah.
some insights, and like if we're going to infer from the few explanations of at least flashbacks of his past,
yeah.
I think he had a very rough upbringing. You know, Papa Eugene came from a very very low background,
Yeah.
and suddenly because of the influence of the Western culture, the Western missionaries coming there, and then he moved in with them. They did a lot of things to him, and because to them he saw them like a god, or they were the ones that had the best moral compass.
Yeah.
So everything they did for him, that was like kind of how I felt about Eugene.
He tried to replicate that
Yes,
lifestyle.
because to him it was the right thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's easy to like judge Papa Eugene and say he was all of, and to be fair, he was all of these things, but he was those things because during his formative years, those were the things that were like taught to him. Because the Westerners came, he was literally poor. They helped him start reading, know things. He now decided he hustled, got an education, finally had his own company. So it was to him was like, oh, I was able to like have this breakthrough through these people. They taught me about religion, so everything they must be saying must be right.
But I honestly feel like he took it to a whole new level, a whole new different level.
Religious extremism.
Yeah, because no one taught him to beat his wife. No one taught him to actually, let's say, be this kind of uptight father that doesn't allow his children space to breathe normally. Just there living with his routine and everything. So no one taught him. They were just the way he is, the way he decided on his own to raise his children, which is very bad if you ask me. Of course, so by the time we get to other details, you know why we say that it's
we
a
don't
bad.
want to spoil the entire book, but then
And of course, we don't want to give spoilers, so because I know there are people watching us now who have not read that book, so you can still pick up a copy and read it and find out more details of what happened here. But yeah, Eugene Achike's character, he was the villain for me, and I didn't like him. And well, let's move on from him anyway. Let's go to Jaja, his son, Kambili's brother. Yeah, Jaja is the one and only son. Kambili's one and only daughter between Mama and Papa, Eugene and Beatrice Achike. So Jaja is like was also he used to be the obedient, follow the plan, follow the rule kind of boy until something happened, something broke in him, sort of, and he became recalcitrant. He became no longer the obedient Jaja that followed Papa's precepts and routine and whatever Papa says. He kind of found his voice, began to question Papa. He's that character that said, enough is enough, please. And maybe it's a coming of age kind of thing.
Yes, it is.
Maybe.
And I think it also came from the visit to Auntie Ifoma. The second visit, at least, when Mama came back with that terrible news. That I don't know if we're going to tell the listeners here. But yeah, when Mama came to Unsuka with that terrible news, I think something broke in him. He saw from the way Auntie Ifoma's household was being modeled. Like, Obiora sort of became his own model as to how a son should be. Because Obiora became like the man of the house after Auntie Ifoma's husband had died. So he was thinking, I'm even like older than Obiora. Look at what Obiora is doing. He was so manly. He just always seemed to like be in charge. And he was young. He still had some things he was scared of. But you could tell that Obiora was always doing things in spite of fear. Remember when the people came to Auntie Ifoma's house to like throw things around, break things? Obiora was just to stand up and be like, you can't just enter here. Obiora was literally just 14. So it actually gave Jaja like a moment to think like I'm supposed to be doing this for my mom. I'm supposed to like help
stand
her
up
out,
for her.
Stand up for her against
my
things my father did. So that's what actually happened. As soon as he got back home, that thing I think sometimes it takes like a very serious thing to just let that not loose. And no, that's enough. And sadly, it took that long to happen. I'm sure it's happened.
No going back from there.
There's no going back. Hopefully, it would have happened a lot earlier, and maybe things would have not gotten as bad as they did. But it happened at a moment that was too late, where Mama had done the unthinkable. So yes.
But I was just imagine, what if it happened earlier and maybe Papa disowned him, probably, and he becomes more like a street boy, a homeless street boy who's not going to school because I think from my perception of Papa, he's capable of disowning his own son.
The thing is, the first time it happened, remember the first time Jaja stood up to Papa? Jaja stood up to Papa. The way Campbell described it, Jaja stood up to Papa with fear in his eyes. But that's the thing about abusers. Abusers capitalize on your fear. He did it with fear. He did it regardless. As soon as that moment passed and Papa saw that the fear wasn't going to shake, Campbell described it as the fear that I saw in Jaja's eyes jumped
to
back
Papa's
to Papa's eyes.
When they were
so he was scared because everything that Papa had capitalized on was the fear of his children. That was what was giving him that ego, that whole thing.
Morale,
so it was like, even sure I'm not scared. He became fearful. So that's when he started to shatter. So I don't think that he would have done anything important because first of all, the moment he would have done that, even though Campbell was always going to be quiet because that was just Campbell.
But that's also about egocentric people, Sha. The moment he discovered that this guy is no longer fearful, no longer fears me, his ego might push him to do quite rough things,
What exactly? How far would he go? He has to remember that Papa was also, despite the fact that he might have been a very strict man, he also had a lot of. He's the kind of person that had a set of rules that guided his life, and he wasn't going to change them. Perhaps maybe part of the set of rules was like, no matter what happens, your children are your children. As long as the thing that would have literally been really, really bad was if Jaja continued to flaunt rules concerning mass. That was when Papa would have literally, because if Papa could do it to his own father, because his father was a heathen, if Jaja had said, he was taking up Papa Onuku's faith, that would have been the end for Jaja. But if he continued to steal, maybe it was just more of just rebellion. Maybe when he wanted to hit his wife and he would just, stop that. Perhaps they would have found a way through or something. But nobody knows. This is Chimamanda's book and we're living in it.
There are questions every year on Twitter. People will come back. I need Chimamanda to come back and tell us what happened to this person. If you've read Half a Yellow Sun, as a character called, okay, I'm trying to deviate. Kainene. Have you read the book?
I read a part of it, but I haven't finished.
Nobody knows what happened to Kainene to you today. So people ask her, please, where is Kainene? What happened to her?
But that's what makes for a good book. Those question marks and make the readers think, what happened? Have you read this, that? Yeah, that's what really makes for a good book.
So yeah, let's move on to other characters. We've mentioned the important characters in this book. We have Anti-Former. And of course, her three children, Obiora, Amaka, and Chima. Yeah, so they actually played important roles in helping the Adichie children see that there is a different way of life other than what Papa made them experience, in their house. I
particularly remember when when Kambili was in the house and something happened and she laughed. She said, "I didn't even realize I was laughing. I didn't even realize I had a laughter. I had a sound." And I remember I was so touched. I was like, "Oh my!" Do you know what it is for a child to not laugh?
Not to laugh.
Like, no matter how children can be, adolescents can be, there's something you should always expect. There will be moments where they will laugh, and it's like she didn't even realize she could laugh. Like, she was always so fearful in school, and the thing about the fear for her, it even turned into such of like a dysfunctionality when it came to social settings. She couldn't talk without feeling like she was going to stutter, or so much anxiety clouded up within her. She just needed space, and she would always run, and people now interpreted it as her being snobbish. Meanwhile, she just had serious social anxiety. It was a terrible life for Kambi.
Because of how stringent her father was.
Yes, she was so scared. She was always lived in total fear, whether he was there or he was not. He felt it was like a shadow that was constantly above her, constantly around her, whether he was absent or present.
I want to get more into that when we get to the themes, because that's our next segment. Now let's just dive into the themes that were covered in this book, starting from, let's start from religion.
Yeah, definitely. Religion played a huge theme. It was a huge theme in this book because most of Papa's actions, according to him, from his interpretation of religion, that was what guided his actions. Everything he did to him was. I remember when he would tell Kambili and Jaja, when Kambili had second position that term, and he was like, God is not happy with you because you're not living up to your full potential. He always had a way to circle everything back to religion back to God. And it tells you how sometimes people can have such a very weird interpretation of religion and
God.
Yes,
because there's a background to Kambili coming second. That's that.
Yes,
which we'll get into when we talk about trauma. There's a background there, or there was a background there. Well, doesn't care about that. What matters to him is that you're not.
She couldn't even tell him about it. It was just, you didn't do well, this and that and that and that. So you're not fulfilling God's will. Then there was the whole thing of him not even being close to his own father. Like, how much can religion pull you away from other people? Because people talk about religion as being something that should make you more loving, more compassionate,
especially Christianity, for example.
Yes, and the religion he was professing at that point somehow made him more judgmental
and alienated from the rest of the people.
Yes, so how can you bring people close to in his own case, he wanted Papa Nuku to come to God he was serving, but somehow he was pushing him away
with his actions.
It was such a conundrum, because how would you want someone to come close to something but you're pushing them away from you when you're supposed to be showing them what that thing could be like? So religion was a huge part of the book, because we could see the contrast between both of them. Papa Nuku on one side, according to in Papa Eugene's eyes, was a heathen because he stuck to the old ways of worship. Papa Eugene, on the other hand, stuck to the new way of religion brought upon by the Western missionaries. And there was still Anti-Former, who, despite believing in the new way, was still accommodating and open to the old ways. Not in terms of that she was trying to do those things, but she was connected to the people doing them. She wasn't judging them. So that happened.
And just to paint a clearer picture, Papa had this kind of rift with his own father, Papa Nuku, so much so that he refused his children from having any contact with their grandfather, Papa Nuku. They said, don't go close to him, don't speak to him, don't eat his food, nothing.
Even when they went to visit him, 15 minutes and you're back. If you spend a minute longer, it is trouble for you.
And that kind of intolerance is quite common in Nigeria, for example. There are people who say, if it's not my religion, it's nothing else. even within the same religion, because if it's not by denomination,
yes, because
please.
you realize even Papa Nuku, even despite when maybe they'll be Christians,
Yeah.
he still had some judgment against people that were not exactly Catholics like he
Yeah.
was. And even when you were Catholic, he would have a problem if you're not doing it the way you felt you should be doing
I'm
it.
telling you.
Why were you coming and your hair wasn't tight? Why were you doing this? Why were you doing that?
How you clap in church.
Even how you
don't
collected
clap
communion.
too loudly.
He's like, all these new ways of hand, bring out your tongue and collect the communion. There were just
God.
so many rules to him. He was a man of rules and
Yeah.
he wasn't changing.
And those rules were quite ridiculous, if you ask me. I mean, nothing made sense about some of those rules. And talking about that religion, there's also a background to that religion, which is colonialism or post-colonialism at this point, that brought in that religion.
Yes.
Papa was looking up to the Brits,
Yes.
or the British, as the standard, as the best. So he wanted to follow that. We saw right from the first chapter of that book how Father Benedict, the priest in St. Agnes,
Yes.
the church where Papa and his family worships, used to say that they shouldn't take the credo or the Kyrie, which I think are parts of the mass.
Yeah.
They should not be taken in Igbo. They must
He
be
didn't want
taken in
any.
Latin.
He didn't want any Igbo thing.
Uh-huh.
It was fully Latin.
Yes.
Fully this. He didn't want them to even. And it was crazy because even if he brought the religion in, people should still be able to inflect. Like they should be able to praise God in their language.
And what they understand.
Should be able to talk because it's like you're bringing in something to them. It's like you've discipled them into it, but they cannot be expressive in what is natural to them. Their mother tongue has no place in religion, and it was so bizarre.
I feel like that was such a subtle reflection of colonialism,
And
because he
slight
said
racism, perhaps.
he said that taking those songs in Igbo we kind of reduce the solemnity of the liturgy, maybe make them less powerful.
Yes.
I wonder how that makes sense to anybody. So somehow language makes a song more powerful, or makes the prayer more
as
powerful.
though language was a barrier to God
Yes,
hearing
yes,
them,
as though God only hears
Latin.
the Latin and not Igbo. I mean,
It was really ridiculous.
That's crazy. And I mean, he cautioned them on how they clap, how you walk, just everything.
They literally could not be free in God's presence. It was literally contradicting. I think a Bible verse that talks about something.
In the presence of God, there is liberty.
But no. All of you have to be soldiers. You have to be soldiers. So Father Benedict had some very, very strange rules, and he was just pushing it on them. And because obviously, Papa Eugene was one of the serious contributors, and he loved what was happening, he just took it all up and said if it was not that way, then it was not the right way. So yeah, religion as a theme.
Because let's even maybe piggyback to how this thing started. How Jaja refused to take communion.
The climax of this book, by the way, is at the beginning of the book. It all happened one day. It all happened the day Jaja said, I will not take communion. And he flung. That was, like when somebody just starts telling you a story and you think it's going to take a while before it kicks in. No.
Just
the
that
first page of the book,
climax.
oh my goodness, that happened. Like, viewers, that is what you're going to get when you open the first page. He flung the miss up. Why?
Because Jaja refused to take communion.
and then Camille was like, this is all new to me. This is so new. I don't know how to react. Like, I don't know, these are new things. What is Jaja doing? Why can't he? Because the thing about Campbell, even though she was going through a traumatic experience and everything was literally trauma in that house, there's such a way that the trauma begins to be, you get so used to it, you're scared of what freedom might be like. Because Campbell was so scared that he was unraveling everything. He was making her ask questions that she normally would not ask. Because Campbell was an avoidant. She would sidestep problems and think up fantasies or talk about anything but
except
what was
the issue at hand.
So when Jaja started with his rebellion, recalcitrant attitude, talking out to his father, or speaking against him, it was crumpling Campbell's world.
She was lost. She didn't know how to
react
to the situation.
She didn't know how to be.
She didn't know whether to take anybody's side, because she doesn't even know what it means to take sides.
It was literally happening for the first time.
It
was like Papa was this school teacher, and you know how when children are still in like maybe playgroup and it's like, oh yeah, line up, everybody listens, nobody's really disobedient. And then this was happening, so Campbell's like, what's going on? It was so new to her.
And she trusted Papa so much. Papa was like the idol, the standard.
Yes, everything she did to please him.
Yeah. So she really felt that somehow Jaja could have done things differently, just to make sure that things were still in peace in the house. So yeah, she really believed that Jaja could have probably taken a different course of action at the beginning, because she didn't know what freedom meant and how to be rebellious to the father. Yeah. So that's very important, talking about that religion and of course the role that colonial influence played on Papa's view of religion, and how he actually took that into his family and how he actually led his family. So yeah, moving from religion, let's move on to trauma. Trauma seems to be like
in every page of the book.
Even
when you're done, you'll be traumatized.
You did read that too, like
I was
Christ.
so traumatized. What did I just read?
Because how somebody have the heart to read this thing? How did you think about it?
Even when at the end of the day, Papa passed, you're still thinking, okay, but the way he passed, is like morally does it seem right?
Even if he might have deserved it, but
because remember there's a time we had sort of like a little hint into choosing moral sides when there's injustice. Remember in the time when I think one of Auntie Former's friends came over and she was talking about how the son was selling exam sheets to people, and you're like, and that he deserves it, like because the man will not stand for what is right. What does he expect? There's no food, so the child has to look for meat. And Auntie Former was like, no, now it doesn't matter, regardless of how bad things are. Children should not start stealing to do so and so. So it kind of like was a hint of, at the end of the story, there'll be another question of where do you stand?
Where do you stand? You're on the right or the left?
Yeah, trauma was everywhere.
Trauma was everywhere. I think the one that actually stood out to me, at least at the beginning, was when Kambili witnessed Papa beating the baby out of Mama. No,
she was in the next room and she was just hearing sounds. It happened like so quickly.
So quickly.
Like even I did read, I had to be like,
what happened?
Is it what really happened?
So quickly.
I had to read that part again,
to be sure of what.
Is that really what happened? And I think what was even more traumatizing was, there's such a way Papa was that he could make even his sins look like he was doing good.
Yeah.
Because when he had beaten Mama the first time and she had lost her baby, we don't even know if that was the first situation.
No, from the tone of this book, you can tell that Mama lost many babies.
Possibly due to violence.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and she said they came back home and Papa was saying that when they went, they stayed back at Mass to pray for forgiveness for Mama. And I was so conflicted.
Like, you're the one that beat her to lose her baby.
But
to the point praying for her
to be forgiven, not you. Meaning that in Papa's eyes, what he did was
the right thing. There are many men actually believe that they can correct her wife by beating her.
Yes.
And I don't know whether.
I think when
I actually mean Christian men, not like maybe who don't.
I think when it became scary for me was when Kambili had cramps. She had menstrual cramps, and she has to eat. And usually the Eucharistic fast requires some about an hour before. Yes, but Kambili obviously had cramps, and she had to take Panadol. And her mom was like, "Oh, you have to put something down before you came." That's not a problem. Papa came in, was angry, and nothing new. Papa removed his belt, nothing new. Then I saw that this man did not just whip his two children; he whipped his wife
as well.
Usually, I thought, okay, he would do this in hiding. Like everybody would still know that Mama had been beaten. But it was like a successive on everybody. Like, when you hear everybody go collect.
Exactly.
Everybody collected in that scene of the book, and I was like,
and for what? For something that they didn't have any control over.
And when he would do it, he would now call them to himself and say, "I'm doing it for you."
In love and correction.
Yes, because you did. It was so hard.
And it was always centered around how they are displeasing God through their actions.
And that you're not supposed to be doing that eating before you know you're not supposed to do this. It was really a loss. Everybody was traumatized in the book.
So about that witnessing that losing a baby, how she saw blood.
Yes.
And then she couldn't read. Each time she goes to read, she
was
sees
seeing
blood.
spots of blood.
And that's how she came second position that time. Remember?
You can even imagine how much she still desired, craved perfection for her to come second. When you were reading with like your vision being clouded. It was, and the thing is that she didn't even know she was being traumatized. That it was affecting her that bad. For her to maybe seek help. You can remember, which tells you that Papa is really a complex character.
It is.
Because when Adekoka's daughter stopped speaking because of what she witnessed, Adekoka's daughter could not speak because of the trauma she had witnessed. But he flew Adekoka's wife and the child out, gave them the best of specialists, this and that because of what was happening. But there was never a point where he called Kambili to say what happened this term that he couldn't read. What was going on? To him, there was in his books they could never have an emotional problem.
He said they don't spend all that money on St. Nicholas and what's the other school now? I've forgotten the school that
I can't remember.
For them to be coming second. Oh my God!
It was a lot happening, and then the next time she read her eyes out. Imagine like your father correcting you and to clear away your trauma. She stopped seeing red. It was traumatic.
But then that Adekoka's child's trauma also points out that theme of this book, hypocrisy. So yeah, talking about Adekoka's child and her traumatic experience and how Papa flew them, to get treatment and recovery and therapy and all that. I think it points to Papa's hypocrisy.
Yeah,
Papa was so hypocritical in this book because outside he was this philanthropist, so nice, donating money,
oh my goodness,
giving
he was
beggars,
so kind, hugging children,
yes.
doing how is this, how is that. Just he was so kind, and then in his house he was like a demon. Like
I was so surprised because he had like a newspaper, The Standard, dedicated to the truth, exposing government ills, corruption. But back at home, he was this demon.
But it tells you how that Papa did not even think that his actions were wrong.
Actually,
that's the first thing you have to understand.
Yeah.
He didn't even think his actions were wrong. He didn't think and it was just.
Was that narcissism at play? Oh, I don't know.
I still think it was some of the influence of how he had been raised.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember there's a particular part in the book where Jaja and Kambili had come from Unsuka and they were with Papa and Unko in the same house, and it was like you were living with a heathen. And then he poured boiling water on their feet. And when he was done, he recounted the story to Kambili of how when he was younger, he was caught doing something wrong. And the father there in the monastery or whatever, he had also poured boiling water on his hand. So it was, to him, it was just
doing the right thing, replicating the same measures.
Corrected.
Yeah.
So it kind of just tells you that to him, he wasn't doing anything wrong.
Well, but it's still hypocrisy at the end of the day for you to be because if he didn't know, but let's talk about it. If he didn't know that what was in was wrong, why wasn't he using the same high-handedness to treat other children outside? Why was he hugging them? He never hugged Kambili or.
No, he hugged them. He hugged them mostly when they had done wrong.
Yeah, when they were punishing them.
Yes, but sometimes you could see Papa Eugene's
soft side.
Especially when he had to let them go to Unsuka for the first time. He hugged them the first time. The book describes that he hugged them for the first time. They had entered the car. He called them out again to hug them again. These children have never been apart from you for more than a day.
Yeah.
And now you're going for like days somewhere. He was just crumpling his word. Because Papa Eugene had sort of a system he lived with. It was kind of person that if one puzzle was missing, it would disturb him. Yeah. That's why the first time Jaja stood up to him, he was confused because to him he had premeditated everything. He knew how things were supposed to be. So when it suddenly just became the opposite, it was also new to him, just as it was new to Kambili.
But I think that hug of a thing, missing them, having them away from his son for more than one day, might not actually be out of love. It just be out of him losing. He doesn't want to lose control. Yeah. Who are very controlling. So you have to mask it, hug them, and to me that's what I can infer from.
You really hate this one. There's no justice for him.
He cannot be masking his lack of. He felt that he will lose control of their lives because even when they were going,
they were a huge part of his life.
He drafted a timetable for them in that person's house. So we're going to someone's house.
Everyone impressed him, and if someone looked at it and laughed and was like, "What is this rubbish?"
So yeah, I think Papa was feeling like he's losing control, but in order not to show it. Tried to at least show a bit of affection and love and hug and all that.
Maybe he just knew how to love in the wrong way.
The wrong way, yeah. Well, maybe that points to people having different love languages, whatever that means.
Violence. The love language of violence.
Papa's love language was actually violence.
Was violence. It was order. It was order. It was order mostly. Sure.
But the expression was violent. So maybe that takes us to the next theme now: domestic violence. I love the way you just sit down. You listen because
let's take a moment to think about Mama Eugene.
Oh my God.
She was the punching bag.
That's what
I'm going to say.
It was a punching bag.
It was a punching bag for.
Oh my God.
They hear stories of the man is so bad, but this moment his wife became pregnant, he just stopped any sort of violence.
Mellowed down, tried to pamper the wife.
And that.
But not with Papa Eugene.
Not with Papa Eugene, because he did it the first time, at least the one we knew in the book. The second time, he broke a table. Although he didn't know she was pregnant, but still, you break a table on your wife. And the way Kambili describes this table, you know that it is not just a felele table. It wasn't a light table that you just fling or use your leg to kick. Yeah. It was because Papa Eugene's house was a house that had been built with wealth.
And
so whatever was there,
yes. Where can we describe the bed in her father's room.
Yes, so
shows the
whatever
kind of
was
quality,
there
yeah.
must have been quality. He broke that table on this very small woman's body, because the book describes Beatrice as being a very small woman. He broke that table on her. I think that's when Beatrice must have been like, oh my
no,
goodness,
this is it, please.
Today is the day has ended.
Hey God.
Because she was already 6 weeks gone.
6 weeks gone, and just like that, she lost another baby, just like that. And you know, at the beginning, you said that Mama and Papa had only 2 children, and you know that something was happening to other pregnancies. She lost pregnancy, but why? Because Papa was beating her. All of the children she lost, all of the pregnancy she lost was due to Papa's beatings and violence, and that's super bad. Back then, there wasn't much of help. You know, like now, people can actually report to NAPTIP,
People can
to other
even
agencies,
social media, say it out,
yes.
call for help.
But then
it was sort of a thing of pride when you were staying in your home, even if you were going through pain. It would be like, just
endure it.
Don't get him pissed. And I think that's what Mama Eugene tried to do. Mama Campbell, she was always trying to. She just thought that if she did everything right, there would be nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But it never happened that way, because we never saw situations where she did anything so bizarre that would make somebody so angry to the point of breaking a table on you.
Papa had anger issues that he didn't work on.
Serious anger.
And he didn't even know that he had anger issues to start with. He felt to him it was the standard of everything good. However he wants it, however he does it is the best way. Nothing comes close. So that's another thing. And imagine if Jaja grew up, married somebody's daughter, began to beat her. And then if she leaves, people will not be saying, my mother endured these things. That's how what you see these days. People say our mothers endured these ones in the past. We're even there to know how that endurance happened.
And actually, that's how Campbell would have turned out, if not for what happened. Because she was already assimilating of a lot of her mom's behavior and her mom's trauma response. Even though she found her own trauma response in it, which is another theme of the book, how they all had different trauma responses. For Mama, it was always, whenever the beating would happen, she would just go down, clean her figurines on the etagere. on the shelf. She would just clean the figurines, and then it would be like as she's cleaning one, she's just letting the pain go. She would never say anything to the children. She wouldn't cry in front of them. She would just go clean it, and that would be all. For Kambili and Jaja, they would talk about everything, talk about their day, talk about things they already knew so much about, but they will never talk about what had happened
in the house. Nothing. Nobody talks about Papa and his actions, or whether it's right or wrong. Nothing. Just talk about the food they're eating, or the school.
And talk about the timetables. How is the timetable this week? How is that? How is that? Every single thing, but never the problem. Never the problem.
Until they went to soccer, and maybe Jaja found a different way of letting out.
Yes, Jaja started using gardening to let out his frustration, because Kambili was still held on to her communications with Jaja as the only way to let out her frustration. And so when Jaja was not really as chatty as he was, it was a lot for her until she found Father Amadi. I think that's why she really, really was very drawn to Father Amadi, because he now became her next sort of way to just vent,
the go-to person to talk about her life.
Even though she wasn't still talking about important things, but she just had somebody
spending
to
time
chat
with her, or with him actually, allowed her to find her voice and became better at handling things generally. Well, if you want to find out more about Father Amadi and Kambili, please pick up a copy. I'm not going to talk about it.
We should talk about economic gap.
Yes,
it was also one of the themes. How there was like so much disparity between Auntie Ifeoma and Papa Eugene, which is still another testament of what kind of a man is Papa Eugene. He has so much, but because Auntie Ifeoma was close to Papa Onuku and she was taking care of him, he refused to like look out for her because Papa Eugene was like a philanthropist to people's. He was paying people's children's school fees, as in
sponsoring programs, sponsoring others.
He was sponsoring churches, sponsoring buildings, but his father was dying. His father had no food in the village. His sister in Osuka was in lack. Her children didn't have anything until the time that
she was a widow.
Yes, until the time that the children had to go and visit her. Then they sent with things, with gas cookers, with rice, with everything. Meanwhile, he was living in abundance, taking care of other people, but just because we don't identify on the same things, and even if he was. Like, this was a real case of blood is not thicker than water. Papa Eugene did not care about blood. He had his own statutes, his own rules, and if you're not living by it, then you were insignificant.
You don't exist. And that's simply bad. Please, if you are like Papa Eugene, this is your call. This is your, what will I call it now? it is a call actually to change. Have a change of heart. Please learn to actually accommodate others, no matter their religion, their creed, whatever they believe. Please accommodate and tolerate them for who they are. Well, those are the themes that were captured in this book, and there were so many moments of, oh my God, so many moments of crying, and some moments of, oh, very little, maybe like Father Amadi and Kambili.
That was an all moments for you. I'm looking at you.
No. But as I said, little.
For me, there were a few moments. I think my best sub, in fact, you kind of question that you forget when you read a book. And who was that? Was Mama Jo. If you have read the book or you're going to read it, you'll see Mama Jo. Mama Jo was
very chaotic.
She was so hilarious. Just like usually when you go to make your hair, you expect such. They just always have these hairstylists, and you just always have gist or something. She was so funny. Who brought you to make your hair? Are you sure it's a father? That is a father. And the way she was you could just picture it. And she was like, nobody's bringing you to make your hair like that, my dear. Let me tell you, that man loves you. And I was just laughing through the whole thing. And then people will come to buy things and say, God will collect power from the devil. I think you said there was an Igbo version that was very common.
It is. I'll just say it now. Chineke na lepo nsike.
Because Chimamanda,
God collects power.
Yes, and in the book Chimamanda had, when Auntie Ifeoma had a guest over, her fellow lecturer, and the lecturer was talking about how, I can't remember, something about the rioting or something, and the other said something to the woman that made her shut up, and Chimamanda was like, go inside. I was like, hey, you're just stopping your mouth and talking about their elders.
Oh, the elders. Imagine that happening in Papa Eugene's house. To start with,
it cannot happen.
Judge, I won't even be in the same room. It cannot
happen.
And that's like a sharp contrast between the household and
household
yes. And Mama was more open to her children. They can talk to her, come to her with their problems, talk as a family. Unlike these ones that were living like Papa was there, the rest were below him.
There was such like a great divide.
Yeah.
So much power. The power divide was just too wide. And
of course the economic and financial divide as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, well, this is a good one. I mean, the book is quite interesting. You don't want to miss it. Please go and find a copy and read for yourself. Well,
if you download like an ebook or whatever, just get it and read.
Yeah, get yourself a copy and read. It's anywhere that books are found. Anywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, couple books everywhere. You can get yourself a copy and enjoy. Even though you might be traumatized,
you will not,
and you might cry.
Not to self, not to you. Remember that it's just a book.
Yeah, actually.
There are people that read books and therefore the next couple of days are just angry. Anybody say you, then they start reading meaning into things.
Yes.
And for some people, actually, maybe they've had situations like this in the past. Maybe they've been abusive or domestic homes that had domestic violence. It could be a bit triggering. So these are like things to look out for. If you're maybe not fully healed, or like reading these kind of books might open up old wounds. Perhaps this is not your cup of tea.
Yeah,
but that's why we're here. We're going to give you more books in the future that you probably can read and enjoy. But just like a trigger warning, it has themes of domestic abuse, domestic violence. So if that's not really your cup of tea, you might just want to like stay clear of this one.
If you're facing trauma at the moment, please just calm down a bit, relax. It might eventually heal.
We'll get you like a funny one. To, like,
don't worry. By our next episode, you say a different book and a different side of this conversation. Well, thank you everyone. Before we go, let's have a quick rundown of some words that we found in this book that were.
Before that, what are some of like your favorite portions of the book? Do you have like experts that you want to like share?
Well,
I think I have like a couple.
I do have, but you see that part where those women came to their house. I think the
women of the members of the Umuna clan.
I don't know whether it's Umuna, we church something now.
Was it when they went to the village?
No. They came to their house where they lived, and they was to give them. They came to the church actually.
Okay.
So give them small something.
Okay, so she'll give it. Let's pray for Sister Beatrice. So she's always doing this and that. Okay, I remember that.
The ayara will go from other house. It's not enough. Oh, you can cook moi and rice, but they will still finish it and carry the leftover and go.
It was really funny. I think one of the parts that really moved me was when Mama Eugene had come to Auntie Ifeoma's house after the point that Papa Eugene had broken that table on her body. Yeah. And then she just drove. She didn't even know why she came there, but she just came there. And then she got a call from, I think, Papa, and she was like, okay, they were going to leave immediately. And then Auntie Ifeoma said, I'm going to quote exactly what she said. Listen to me, Auntie Ifeoma softened her voice. She must have known the firm voice would not penetrate the fixed smile on Mama's face. Mama's eyes were still glazed, but she looked like a different woman from the one who had come out of the taxi that morning. She looked possessed by a different demon. At least stay a few days, William. Don't go back soon. it was just like, it just felt like when these things happen and then something just goes over Mama and she's like, she has totally forgotten what the person did to her or anything. She moves on like this. Of course, she had like a different plan.
Yeah.
I think we did a good job not really telling them
let them go and actually find out.
Go and find out.
Please.
This is your call. Grab a copy. You know this advertisement. Grab a copy, now.
Oh, Nollywood advert.
Exactly. So you need to grab a copy and actually see
and
what
find out.
happens.
Don't want to spoil the book for you, please, so you can still feel the joy of reading this fiction, this beautiful work of fiction. You enjoy it, I'm sure. And I'm not sure there's anyone who has anything bad or negative to say about Purple Hibiscus. Nobody. Everyone enjoys it. Old, young. I mean, it's a very beautiful book. And well, that's it, everybody. Before we go, let's give you a quick rundown of some words, both Igbo words and English words that we found interesting and might help you actually build your vocabulary as you get through this book, and of course, how to use them very quickly. Sonia.
Okay. So for the English words which I'll be taking, we have lineage, which means tracking of direct descent and ancestry, usually for pedigree. Reverence, a feeling of profound respect for someone or something. Benevolence, kind and fair with power. Then we have indigenous, originating or occurring naturally in a particular place, that is, something is native to somewhere. Then we have allegories, a story, poem that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically moral or political. Placid, not easily upset, calm and centered. Obstinate, stubbornly refusing a course of action. Frailty, the condition of being weak and delicate associated with old age. We also have inculturation, process by which an individual adopts the behavioral patterns of the culture in which he or she is immersed. Finally, I have etagere, a cabinet with open shelves for displaying ornaments.
Okay, and let's go quickly to the Igbo words, and we take some of them and their meaning very quickly. Well, this song that she included there, Abumoye Nowa Onye Kambo Nowa, I'm who am I in this world? Who am I in this life? That's what it means. And we also have Aja, A-J-A, which means sand, but you can also have Aja. Aja would mean sacrifice. It depends on how it's pronounced. If you say Aja, Aja means sand, while Aja would mean sacrifice. The same spelling, but different meanings. We also have Akwamozu. You meet that because, Papa and the travel for Akwamozu. Akwamozu means like funeral or burial. It's funeral anyway. Akwamozu is funeral. There's Amaka. Amaka is a character. Amaka is short for Chiamaka, which means God is beautiful. That's what it means. There is Angara. Angara, you see it. Anyara is like garden egg in Igbo, yeah. That's what anyara means. And there is the atilogu. Even though some people say atilogu, but it's I know it as atilogu. It's kind of a form of Igbo dance, acrobatic dance style that Igbo people usually do. That's what atilogu is. You can have a bunyeyenu. People know that one from popular songs. Yeah, bunyeyenu means lift him high, lift him up, something like that. Often referring to God, of course, bunyeyenu. And a host of them anyway that you find like Chim, my God. Chi is God. If you now add that Chim is now my God. So yeah, that's it for some of the Igbo words that we've picked for you from this novel that you might encounter when you read them. And that's it, everyone, on today's episode of the Bookish Clan. Thank you for your time. Thank you for participating. If you have any questions or contributions or suggestions, just send us to us, and I'll send you your questions, comments, or contributions based on today's episode, or book suggestions that you want us to review on subsequent episodes. Thank you very much, and until next time, I am still Emmanuel Ebo with
Sonia Aigokian. And of course, the book we're going to be doing next week is Atomic Habits, so that our viewers can get to read with us and of course analyze with us. So stay tuned.
Yeah, Atomic Habits coming to you next week. And until then, bye. Ta-da.